graduating. My team assumed poverty, crime rates were the strongest factors in not graduating, which is, unfortunately is very common in Dls Ii students. To find a solution of low graduation rates, my team wanted to do a project to collect data that would show what could be done to improve graduation rates at Dls Ii and other schools. My team constructed our research project with the goal of finding the project's conclusion to encourage schools, community groups, and city policymakers to combat low graduation rates.
For our process, we were originally going to do research on dropout rates instead of retention rates. Then we came to realize that it was hard for us to find data on dropout rates since schools don't usually report out dropout rates, but they do report out enrollment rates. So we just used those enrollment rates to calculate retention rates and chose that as our topic. After that, we broke into 3 groups: retention rates, crime rates, and demographics. And the people in each of those groups would do research according to their part of the project. And people in demographics would do research on the other contributing factors or possible contributing factors to retention rates, which included income, race, and gender. And we had to make sure that we had reliable resources, so we only used official government websites, so whatever information we gathered would be reliable. For the schools, we mostly wanted to do research on public schools since the majority of the people that attend public schools live in the same general area, and we're doing our research based on zip codes, so whatever information we gathered would be applicable to them. At first, Lincoln High School was on our list of schools, but we realized that many of the students that attend Lincoln High School don't live in the same community, and since we're doing our research based on zip code, it wouldn't be very much applicable to them. So we decided to remove them from the list. And the reason we added our school, as mentioned before, is we've noticed the similar trend where the senior class would be significantly smaller than when they came in as freshmen. So we wanted to see if any of the factors that are contributing to retention rates in all the other public schools could also be contributing to the retention rates in our school. And as of now, we're mostly focusing on Grant and Madison High School and on crime rates versus retention rates.
Alright, so I'll just step in front to show you guys. So basically, you can see here it says Madison, right there. Yeah, so we've got the crimes, these 3 crimes here: burglary, larceny, theft and auto. Those were actually what we found to be the most recurring crimes, and so that's what we chose to focus on. Choosing all the crimes it would take way too long. And so what we've done here, since crime is actually in numbers and retention rate is in percentages, we had to take the total amount of crimes, and then we take one crime and divide it by the total, and that gives us the percentages, which are right here. And so for Madison, it's actually, we got pretty good results. As you can see, for theft from vehicles specifically, as this went up, we saw the retention rate went down, and when that's at its peak, retention rate was actually at its lowest point. And as that went down, the retention rate started to go back up. Alright, so with Grant, Grant, even though it looks like the crime is actually really high, it's not. That's just because the numbers are actually, they're low for crime or in that area. And so when you divide it over the total, you get a high percentage. But this one is, I mean, we can see that the retention rate actually, it stayed consistent as, the crime was all over the place. Yeah, so they have less crime, retention rate is actually stable.
We learned the key components to building a successful research project, which include brainstorming, choosing an idea, and researching that idea. We have to be able to break off into groups and do research within those groups and still be able to come back together as one group and analyze and organize our data and build the project as a group. And overall, we learned how our research can positively impact our community.
For the future, we plan to develop our data, so in demographic factors such as income, race, gender, and household type, and also also, we plan to finish our research in Dls Ii, Roosevelt, Wilson, and Cleveland.
Our goals for impact is that other schools would ultimately be informed about the information we gathered on our project, because if they know what are the leading causes of their retention rates, then they'll be able to focus on finding solutions and keeping their retention rates high. And also, the city could benefit from whatever information we gather as well, because they play such a big part on our education and such a big part in funding schools, so they could focus on finding solutions and helping these schools in whatever areas they need help.
So we face many obstacles, and some of them are the census. We can only get data every 10 years, since that's when the census is done. And also for the crime rate data, we are only able to get it every year, but from 2008 up to 2013. And also the accuracy of the retention rate, since we don't have many sources, we can't reinforce the data that we do have. And Roosevelt presented a different challenge because it went through structural changes. It split up into 3 schools and then came back as one big school, so the retention rate was hard to follow.
Some improvements that we could have made in this project was more variety with the schools. We could have had 2 public schools, 2 private schools, maybe alternative school or charter school, and we could have more sources for information so that we could get more data. And then we would like to refine our project so that we can take it to community centers, the city council, and other schools, so that they can be informed on what may be affecting them from not graduating or